Precious, a beautiful 22-year-old Nigerian woman, has always dreamt of a better life. Growing up in a poor neighborhood, she faced many challenges, but her determination and hard work paid off when she landed a job at a prestigious company in Korea. It was an opportunity of a lifetime, and she was ready to embrace it with open arms. As she boarded the plane to Korea, Precious couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and nervousness. She had never traveled outside Nigeria before, and the thought of starting a new life in a foreign country was both thrilling and daunting. When Precious arrived in Korea, she was greeted by the bustling energy of Seoul. The city was a stark contrast to her hometown. With its towering skyscrapers, lights, and busy streets, she took a deep breath, reminding herself that this was the fresh start she has been waiting for. Precious has managed to find a small room in a poor area of the city. It wasn't much, but it was affordable and close to her new workplace. The room was tiny, with just enough space for a bed, a small table, and wardrobe. Despite its modesty, Precious was grateful to have a place to call her own. The next day, Precious woke up early, eager to make a good impression on her first day at work. She dressed in her best outfit, a simple suit, and made her way to the company's headquarters. As she approached the building, she was astonished by its grandeur. The headquarters was a towering glass structure, gleaming in the sunlight. It was a symbol of modernity and success. Precious couldn't believe she was about to step inside. She took a moment to compose herself before walking through the revolving doors. Inside, the lobby was equally impressive, with marble floors, sleek furniture, and a large reception desk. Precious felt a mix of awe and intimidation as she approached the receptionist. "Good morning, I am Precious. It's my first day here," she said, her voice steady despite her nerves. The receptionist smiled warmly. "Welcome, Precious. We are glad to have you. Please take a seat and someone will be with you shortly." Soon, a group of her new colleagues gathered around to welcome her. They were friendly and eager to help her settle in. Just as the PRO manager was about to show Precious around the company, a very handsome Korean man descended from the top floor. It was Mr. Lee, the CEO of the company. To everyone's shock, Mr. Lee approached Precious directly. "Good morning, Precious. I'm Mr. Lee, the CEO. I'll be showing you around today." Precious was taken aback but managed to smile. "Thank you, Mr. Lee. It is an honor." As they walked through the impressive corridor, Mr. Lee pointed out various departments and facilities. "This is our marketing department, and over there is the research lab. If you have any questions, feel free to ask." Precious couldn't help but notice how attentive and charming Mr. Lee was. "Thank you, Mr. Lee. Everything looks amazing." Mr. Lee smiled, his eyes twinkling. "I'm glad you think so. We take pride in our work here." During the tour, they entered the elevator to visit the upper floors. As the elevator ascended, it suddenly stopped mid-air. Precious' heart raced, and she hugged Mr. Lee out of fear. Mr. Lee was momentarily shocked, but quickly wrapped his arms around her, comforting her. "It's okay, Precious. The elevator will start working again soon. Don't worry." As they hugged, they felt an electric chemistry between them. Precious looked up into Mr. Lee's eyes, and he was staring back at her. Their faces inched closer, their breaths mingling. "Mr. Lee, Precious began. "Call me June," he whispered softly, his gaze staring deep into her eyes. Their lips were mere millimeters apart. The tension was noticeable. Precious' heartbeats thundered in her ears as she felt the heat radiating from Mr. Lee's body. Just as their lips were about to touch, the elevator suddenly jolted and started moving again, pulling them out of their private ward. Precious quickly shifted away from Mr. Lee. Her cheeks flushed. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Lee. I didn't mean to." Mr. Lee smiled warmly. It's alright, Precious. No harm done. When the elevator finally stopped, Precious hurried out, still apologizing. I don't think I need the rest of the tour, Mr. Lee. Thank you. She ran to her workplace, her heart pounding and her face blushing. Mr. Lee watched her with a smile, clearly amused by the situation. As Precious settled into her office, she tried to control her emotions. I can't fall for my handsome boss, she told herself firmly. I need to focus on my work. Later that day, Precious' colleagues were discussing holding a welcome dinner at a bar to celebrate her arrival. To everyone's surprise, Mr. Lee joined the conversation. Why don't we make it a bit more special? Mr. Lee suggested. Instead of a bar, let's go to an expensive restaurant I frequent. My treat, he said. The staff exchanged shock and excited glances. They couldn't believe their CEO was joining them for a welcome dinner. When they arrived at the upscale restaurant, Mr. Lee made sure Precious sat next to him, which caused the staff to exchange knowing smiles. During the meal, Mr. Lee leaned in closer to Precious. So how are you finding your first day so far? Precious smiled, feeling a bit flustered. It's been amazing, Mr. Lee. Everyone has been so welcoming. Mr. Lee's eyes twinkled. I'm glad to hear that, and please don't hesitate to let me know if you need anything. Precious blushed. All right, Mr. Lin, thank you for everything. As they continued to talk, they found themselves staring into each other's eyes, forgetting that the other staff members were there. The chemistry between them was undeniable. When the meal ended, a male colleague offered to give Precious a ride home. Don't worry about it, Mr. Lee said. I'll give her a ride. The staff quickly thanked Mr. Lee and left, leaving Precious and him alone outside the restaurant. Mr. Lee opened the door of his sleek sports car for Precious and she got in. As they drove, they talked about their lives and dreams. Precious felt a connection with Mr. Lee that she couldn't explain. When they arrived at her place, the moonlight casted a romantic glow over them. Mr. Lee walked her to the door and stood there for a moment, the air thick with tension. Precious looked at him and he gazed back at her. Their faces inched closer, their breaths mingling. Thank you for tonight, Mr. Lee. It was wonderful, Precious said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. You can call me June, said Mr. Lee. At least we're in a private space now. Precious blushed and said, thank you, June, for the dinner. And he smiled. Anytime, Precious. Their lips were mere millimeters apart. The tension was very obvious. Precious' heartbeats thundered in her ear and she felt the heat radiating from June's body. Just as their lips were about to touch, Precious suddenly pulled away, blushing so hard. Good night, June. Thank you for the ride, she said quickly before turning and rushing into the house. June smiled warmly. Good night, Precious. Sleep well. Precious leaned against the door, her heart racing. She tried to calm her emotion, reminding herself, I can't fall for my boss. But the memory of their almost kiss lingered in her mind, leaving her feeling both confused and excited.